Métis hold one of the most interesting histories of any nation in Canada. They successfully joined together two very distinct cultures. They have faced and risen above injustice, dispossession, and impoverishment. The descendants of North American Indians and Europeans, the Métis united as a nation in the late 18th century. Today they represent one of the three Aboriginal peoples of Canada and throughout the years have proven to be among the strongest, most resilient people this country has ever seen. Métis leader Louis Riel was only part of the long history of Métis negotiations and the fight for Métis rights. His work eventually led to the creation of Manitoba, the birthplace of the Métis Nation. It did not come without struggle. What followed was a period of darkness for the Métis Nation, a period that brought about the loss of much of their political and social structures. But a group of forward-thinking Métis changed all of that in 1967, the year the Manitoba Métis Federation was formed to stand up and fight for the rights of its people. The Federation allowed the Métis to once again organize themselves politically, manage their own affairs, and re-emerge as a dynamic force in our province and country.
Self-government has many forms, and when I took over as president back in, I left Justice in 1996, it's a long time, and we had 3 staff, and today we have over 500 staff province-wide. But the psyche at the time when I took over was to stabilize the name of the Federation, the name of our government, bring it into good terms with all of both private and public sector, and in turn with our own people. And we slowly built upon creating our own bureaucracy, our own development of services to our people. The cornerstones of achieving self-government is to first find your rightful place and where do you fit into Canada. The Métis have a specific place in this country. We have a special place in this country.
Though the work for a strong self-government has been challenging, the Federation has continued to build on the legacy started over 100 years ago, thanks to its hard work and focused negotiations. Many of those negotiations come courtesy of the Federation's Tripartite Self-Government Negotiations Department, or TSN. TSN has partnered with the provincial and federal governments to develop policies and build lasting relationships that benefit the Manitoba Métis community.
Well, tripartite self-government negotiations fits completely in that role. Its model and its purpose is to negotiate self-government for the betterment of Métis people and directly for Métis citizens. Its fundamental purpose is actually to bring the governments together, bring them into a state where we put an agenda item choose one of the sectors and take the sector and try to enhance it and grasp what can be changed and what cannot, what can be transferred over.
Education, culture, and heritage continue to remain some of the cornerstones of the Federation. The Louis Riel Institute was established to provide education to Métis people of all ages and preserve the unique Métis culture. Success is evident in programs and services the Institute continues to provide to this day. Another success story is that of Standing Tall, a pilot program researched and created by TSN to improve the self-esteem, participation, and graduation rates of Métis students. The program incorporates Aboriginal content into the school curriculum and involves family members in the education of their children.
Education is everything, and it leads to stronger economic states, it leads to more independence. TSN's function, again, is to try to negotiate with both the federal and provincial governments on how they can relieve some of their services that they presently provide, where they don't even consult with us, but yet have an impact directly when it comes to education on our people. I think TSN has a role to try to create the mechanisms that would ensure that we have pull away more control directly into our Métis government so we can have more of a say on the future. But education is clearly, can be even in some ways categorized as the panacea to taking the Métis into a new era.
As the Métis people contribute hundreds of millions of dollars to the Canadian economy every year, Another area of importance to the Federation is economic development. Since 2007, it has worked in partnership with other governments to create a Métis economic development strategy. Its goal? To nurture strong, healthy, and self-reliant Métis families, local communities, and businesses, making the quality of Métis life comparable to that of other Manitobans and Canadians.
Economic development has been the heartbeat of the nation. We've been free traders. We were the ones, in fact, that probably broke the prairie down in the sense of being the conduit between white society and First Nations and the distribution of furs and natural resources. And we as ourselves, as a people, I think it's been the cornerstone of our nation, that we're a very economic, independent people. And you know, economic is in fact the key to self-government.
Through the creation of affiliates like the Louis Riel Capital Corporation, which provides business loans and advice to Métis entrepreneurs, the Federation can finally realize this vision. Having access to quality housing is not, unfortunately, a reality for many members of the Manitoba Métis community. TSN works with the Federation's housing sector to secure support for affordable, sustainable shelter for Métis families across the province. It has already secured millions of dollars to repair and replace housing units. As an added bonus, part of the construction and renovation projects include guaranteed Métis labor, increasing the employability of Métis people in Manitoba.
Right now the Federation manages about 1,300 houses. We used to build houses and find clients, etc., all of those things back in the 70s and early 80s with Canada. And when Canada quit building houses, we took over the role of property managing their houses. And so now we're still managing them today. But these houses are coming old. They're 30-year-old houses already. The amortization is coming to an end. They're under provincial jurisdiction now, but I find that there's got to be a strong action plan. I know the Premier of Manitoba has already echoed, you know, he's going to build 1,500 houses in the next 5 years. And I'm hoping through the tripartite self-government negotiations and also through our housing unit here that there's a real direct partnership.
The Métis have always placed a special emphasis on family, whether immediate, extended, or even those not related by blood. The Federation seeks to improve Métis family life by promoting cultural identity, as well as physical and emotional health, and enhancing the capacities of Métis families. TSN has worked to get legislation passed for the transfer of Child and Family Services to the Métis Child and Family Services Authority and Agency, so Métis families have access to culturally appropriate services.
If you look at, for example, Child Family Services, you know, our children were taken by the hundreds and probably thousands in the 60s, Scoop, where children were just sold to the United States. I use the word sold because really at the end of the day our children were just freely given to Americans in different parts of the world. They went to a house, if your house was in bad shape and your house was not what they would call quote unquote the way your house should be built and live, and you didn't have proper bedrooms or a playroom for your child, those kids were just taken right from your homes if you're poor. Through the tripartite self-government negotiations, we had a built-in agreement with Canada. We would negotiate Child and Family Services as one of the self-government institutions that we one day can govern ourselves. And it's taken us 20 years, 30 years to get there. But now we have our own agency across the province and we manage our own affairs. We still haven't got full 100% control, but we have a major say now on the direction of what will happen to Métis children.
TSN continues to work with all Federation departments to ensure that up-to-date databases and statistics on the Métis population of Manitoba are maintained. The Federation's departments and affiliates use this data to create relevant solutions to the needs of Manitoba's Métis people. TSN has also compiled data on the Federation's membership and Métis harvesting, two of the most important issues to the Manitoba Métis community today.
If every Métis citizen has the right to harvest, then how many of those are going to be in the populace of the full province? So if there's 100,000 Métis, then we know there's 100,000 people. Okay, but then we should do further from that. How many of them will actually utilize harvesting? You know, so we can begin to strategize how do we then work together to protect natural resources, to protect habitat of wildlife, etc., etc. So there's got to be a way of doing that, and only one way of actually ensuring that Métis people benefit from their own rights or their own sources is to clearly define who they are and put in place the mechanisms to ensure that it's only Métis citizens, not people that can walk somewhere and create a card overnight or fraudulently duplicate a card and say, here, I'm a Métis person now because I have a card. Or, for example, if a Mohawk was to marry an Italian in Toronto and they move west and they say, well, I'm mixed blood, I'm Métis. Our position, no, you're not. You're of the Mohawk territory, you're of Italian people, but you're not of the Métis Nation. Our nation is an historically young nation of 300 years old. If you fit within that concept and of the historic homeland, then you are Métis.
The Métis have been responsible for their own self-government for a long time, and the right to a distinct Métis way of life has been a battle that continues today.
The Métis are not something you just walk over anymore. The Métis are a very strong nation. The Métis are going to be there, and we better sit down and talk to them. I think you're going to see a proud generation coming around the corner, and one that will never go back again into hiding or discrimination or feeling that they're, even though they're a minority, that they have lesser rights than anybody. So I think you're going to see a sense of pride that you've never seen before. But I think you're going to see the new kid on the block is going to be somebody they have more better respect soon because we're coming.